Linda Fox, Senior Reporter of PhocusWire, back again. Thanks again to Hannah Bennett from TikTok. And this time I am here with Makoto Rheault-Kihara. He is Head of User Acquisition for Hopper. Welcome, Makoto.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about the fact that Hopper doesn't go for traditional paid search marketing. It goes for social marketing. Just talk us through that strategy. Give us the sort of history of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, Hopper's never actually done any search engine marketing or meta search. We've spent $0 on those channels. What we focus on entirely is paid social. So channels like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, Pinterest, even influencers, they represent about 100% of our ad budget. And that's always been the case for Hopper. It's worked well for us so far, and it's allowed us to grow without having to compete head on with a lot of the travel companies out there.
And is that purely kind of based on sort of cost efficiency? Is it because Hopper thinks of itself as a very different sort of travel company? What's behind that strategy?
Yeah, for one, it is a lot more cost efficient. Without going too much into detail, the costs that we pay per install are often lower than the costs that a lot of OTAs pay for a click. And those installs retain really well. But it also just fits the Hopper product as well. You know, we have a product that's meant for all stages of the purchasing funnel. That tends to fit users on paid social really well. So it's allowed us to carve a path for growth without having to compete with every other travel company for every click that we want. And it's allowed us to reach the stage that we have.
So does Hopper have its kind of favorite social channels that it's found work better than others, or do you just pretty much kind of balance it out across the platforms?
Yeah, one of the advantages with paid social is that there are a lot of options. So we do balance out the budget quite a bit. Our favorite and the one that we use the most is probably still Facebook, and there is just the most volume and the most reach. But we also spread out our spend across other channels like Twitter, Snap, and TikTok. And so it allows us to spread out our spend and not be reliant on any given channel. And it also means we're not reliant on Google, which is good to have an acquisition channel that's not competing with you.
And would you say, there's a very different kind of in-house skill set required to paid social versus, other paid channels?
Absolutely. I'd say with paid social, one of the biggest differences versus search engine marketing and search channels in general is that the creative skills are a lot more important. So with paid social, the biggest lever that you have for performance on the ad side is the image or the video that you use. So it's a lot closer to traditional advertising in that sense, where the creatives that you use are really important. And so at Hopper, we focus a lot of that. We focus a lot on that internally within the team, beyond the traditional ad buying skills around bidding and targeting and whatnot.
And then how are you kind of taking your users or potential users that are kind of engaging with you, and then how do you turn them into customers?
Yeah, that's a good question, because the biggest indicator of success for us with these paid social campaigns is at the end of the day, whether they're booking or not. And one of the most important considerations with paid social is that a lot of the users coming from these channels aren't quite ready to book yet. If you think about the context that you'd see paid social ads in, you're just scrolling through your feed, right? You're not actively looking for travel. So it's pretty rare to click on an ad about a flight and book a flight on the spot. So what we've done is we built a product for users like that. We don't pressure you to book like a lot of travel products do. What Hopper has is products like price prediction, for example. So when you search a flight on Hopper, you're not quite ready to book, you can set a watch, and that starts this conversation with the customer. We see these customers 120 days before they book, during which we have this conversation with them through the notifications, where we'll give them updates on the flight, updates on price predictions, so that we can tell them when to book. And when it is time to book, we let them know, and often they do. Price freeze is another good example of that, where on Hopper, if you see a price that you like, but you're not quite ready to book, you can freeze that price for up to 3 weeks. So by building products like that are meant for users who aren't quite ready to book, we're able to acquire users who are in that stage, but we nurture them and retain them in the app until they are ready to book. And products like price freeze or price prediction, they establish trust with the user. So when they are ready to book, they book with Hopper.
So you're creating all this this great content for your paid social channels, and then how do you, apart from obviously booking, how do you, kind of decide whether it's all worth it? How do you kind of, there must be other sort of success metrics that you're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at campaigns, I'd say there's three main factors we look at. For one, it's scale. It's sometimes you'll have a campaign that performs really well, but if it's only spending a couple $100s and only reaching a couple hundred people, it's not really worth it for Hopper. So we always look for volume as one of the factors of success because we want to grow really quickly and we need to be focusing on opportunities that allow us to do that. The other is conversion. Like I said, like at the end of the day, the best measure for whether we're doing our job as a product and in ads is whether people are actually booking with us. But the last would be retention as well. And one of the things Hopper focuses a lot on, and one of our strengths really is our retention. So the users that we acquire from paid social channels are really sticky. They stay with us for a long time, especially if they book. And so when you look at Hopper's bookings now, after a couple of years of running these strategies, it's not just users who installed the app in 2021 that are transacting. We have users from 2017, 2018, from when we first launched the app that are still coming in month by month, making transactions. And that gives us a really strong foundation to grow off of. And one of the reasons we were able to grow our revenue so much in 2020 as well, even though we slowed down our marketing spend, it's all these returning users are continuing to generate revenue for us year over year.
And are you keeping them engaged with kind of the social marketing side as well?
Yeah, there's the social side, there's the notifications as well, and there is just like a stickiness to the product. Mechanisms like the watch keep you coming back and keep you using the product. And now that we've added products like hotels, like car rental, and we're expanding into all kinds of other products, there's lots of different use cases for Hopper. So even with the fintech products as well, we're really kind of servicing every stage of the trip booking process, from the time that you even have the idea to travel up to the day of your booking. So people tend to use our app very frequently, and that gives us a lot of opportunity to create compelling products.
And would you say that you're using paid social for brand awareness, customer acquisition, both? What's the kind of balance there?
It's primarily for customer acquisition first and foremost. There is like a strong brand awareness component though with paid social, because you're reaching people who aren't actively looking for your product, and millions of people see our ads every month. So there is a strong brand awareness component there. And one of the advantages with the Hopper app too is because we've developed a lot of these unique features around fintech and the price prediction, there's a really strong word of mouth component. So we do use it for customer acquisition, but there's a really large halo effect around brand awareness where people who do install tend to tell their friends. And so we see a huge base of installs coming in just from referrals from those paid installs.
And have you found, for example, that social works particularly well for any particular element, any particular product?
I would definitely say there are some products that are easier than others to advertise. And one of the things with social is, again, because people aren't actively looking for your product, when you're seeing an ad in your feed, you have maybe a couple of seconds, maybe 2-3 seconds at most to grab users' attention. And in that context, it's easier to advertise some of our more simple products, like cheap flights, for example. You're in New York and you see an ad for New York to Miami for $88. You can understand within a second or two why that's compelling. But if you see an ad about price freeze or some of our other fintech products, those take a couple seconds to explain and to really make customers understand why they're compelling. But that's one of the reasons that we focus so much on creative in-house as well, is that the solution to that is to keep testing. And for every product that we have, we test all kinds of different value props, all kinds of different messaging and ways to deliver that value proposition. Eventually, we always find something that works. And the customers that we do acquire from those products that are a little bit harder to explain, but that are unique to Hopper, tend to perform really well once they are in the app, because they're coming into Hopper with really good context around what makes Hopper unique. And so they tend to purchase quite a bit.
So it must be challenging then to kind of, put creative around a product that needs a bit more explanation to get that compelling message across. Yeah,
it can be more challenging for sure, but it's one of the reasons we test so much. I mean, we're launching about an ad a day now, and that's the cadence that we try to maintain. And at that cadence, eventually you're able to find a way to clearly communicate the value propositions of the app. And over time, customers are becoming more and more familiar with our many fintech offerings and our hotels and car rental offerings. So that's made it easier over time as well for us to deliver those value propositions.
So given that you've been doing this a while, would you say, there are those that say that it's not the idea, it's the execution. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I would say the execution component is very important with paid social. And the reason for that is that you need a lot of consistency with paid social for it to work. So when you have an ad that performs well, even if it's the best ad you've ever run on Facebook, for example, eventually Facebook just runs out of people to show that ad to. So you have to keep feeding Facebook new creatives. Your best ads will last at most a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. And building that cadence has been something that we've, from an operational standpoint, gotten really good at. And one of the examples of that is we have a lot of in-house automation technology, for example, that allows us to query the app for the best deals we see based on price and other factors. We're able to look at demand trends as well to create a set of deals that we think are really compelling. And then we're able to dynamically generate image and video ads based on those deals that have updated pricing and creative, dynamically publish them to channels like Facebook, Snap, Twitter, Pinterest, targeted to relevant geographies, whether it's the origin city of the flight or within a driving radius of the hotel. And we're able to do that all basically automatically. It takes our marketers maybe 15 minutes to set up one of those campaigns. And what that allows us to do is have very relevant ads at scale that are localized for every user, updated pricing, which leads to higher conversion. And we get a lot of mileage out of every ad idea because one ad leads to hundreds of variants that are updated every day. That's the kind of operational skills that we've built that allow us to have consistency in our paid social performance.
It must be, do you not have to kind of take each ad and then sort of adapt it for the particular platform or the sort of tone of that platform, the audience of that platform? How challenging is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever we launch new channels, one of the first things we do is we get a really strong understanding of what the native and the organic content looks like on that platform. So TikTok is a channel that we're heavily testing. And one thing we spent a lot of time understanding on TikTok is what people are posting, what people are using TikTok for, just what the context is in general, because porting over TV ads or Facebook ads to TikTok just doesn't work at all. And we've been able to get great performance on TikTok because we make ads that look like they were made by people who are using TikTok. And so for every channel, we go through that process. And it's what's allowed us to launch channels like TikTok, or same story for Snap or Pinterest or even Twitter.
So once you kind of have a success on a particular channel or with a particular product, does that then inform, what your next campaign might be like, something that's resonated well, or is that too difficult to do?
Yeah, we absolutely use campaign data to inform future campaigns. Often over time, what we'll do is refine the messaging, refine the value propositions, refine how we deliver those value propositions. And that leads to the campaigns getting better and better over time. But even on the product side, there are a lot of insights that we're able to get from the campaigns, whether it's the messaging that works in the ads, we also transfer over the product, or sometimes the demographic that an ad really resonates with gives us surprising insights about who the product might be great for. And a good example of that is that when we first started running hotel ads, a really high percentage of the searchers for those ads were searching last minute for the day of or the day after the search. And so that led us to developing all kinds of features specifically for last minute users. And now we have a really healthy last minute hotel business, both on the acquisition side and on the product side. And the last thing too is that users, one of the cool things with social is that users can comment on your ads. And that leads to all kinds of interesting insights where if users are skeptical about a value proposition or something we're saying, they let us know. And there's often interesting feedback there where if people are skeptical, often it's because we're not clearly communicating what we can do for them. And we've used the feedback and comments often to refine the messaging in the product and in the ads as well.
I was going to say, presumably that's something you can capture and then respond to, which is, the nice thing about social, the immediacy of it. So as you've kind of, along the road with paid social, do you Have you learned anything? Like, has there been anything surprising that's come out of it?
Yeah, I'd say one of the surprising insights that we've learned a few times on every channel that we launch is that there's not a very high correlation between the production budget and the performance of our ads. So we've had ads that are, professionally designed in coordination with agencies and spent thousands of dollars producing that do less well than a video that a user sent us of their trip, for example. So one thing we've learned is at the end of the day, like people aren't really downloading Hopper because our ads is well designed or aesthetically pleasing. It's really about whether the ad is compelling, and often user-generated content or other sort of low production ads can make a much more compelling case to download Hopper than the high production ones.
And then how do you kind of learn from that? Because you said about TikTok, you've really studied the kind of user-generated side and try and mimic might be the wrong word, but how would you learn from that?
Yeah, mimic is one way to see it, but like you said, like that's one of the reasons why we study the organic content on the platform so much, is that we've realized making content that is native and making content that feels natural really is what's most important for performance. And we use that approach on Facebook, we use that approach on TikTok and Snap and other channels. And one of the core learnings there is like you said, if we feel that the content is more native, usually it performs better. And sometimes that is more expensive to produce, sometimes not, but it's definitely not a correlation where the more professional your content is, the better it will perform.
So what's one final thing here? What's kind of, this kind of challenges of, constantly creating content for, 5, 6 different platforms while also keeping an eye on perhaps new platforms that are coming up? What would you say are the main challenges? Yeah,
I would say before even the creative, the main challenge that most brands have is creating a product that fits paid social. And even that took us, we didn't figure that out on day one. And users on paid social are coming in from a different context than search, and creating a product for them is very different. And just putting them on a lot of good ideas at really high cadence. So we focus not just on whether we're able to come up with good ideas, but are we able to consistently ship new ideas every day, and do they tend to work? And so that's like an in-house skill that we've built. We have a really strong creative team, a lot of tooling around making that happen. That's a capability that we've built over time that we're still improving on, but it definitely is a process.
Makoto, we're going to have to leave it there. That was Makoto Rheault-Kihara, Head of User Acquisition for Hopper.